Good morning and welcome everyone to the 10th live discussion on how can apprenticeships be used as a tool for social inclusion, inspiring practices that break stereotypes. I am Anne van den Bulke. I'm working in the European Commission in Director General Employment for Social Affairs and Inclusion. Today, we have the pleasure to have with us eminent speakers from across Europe representing different stakeholders, including companies, education and training providers, and also public authorities. Thanks to the diversity of our speakers, we hope to shed light on how apprenticeships can be used as a tool for social inclusion through different perspectives. To all our participants watching, please feel free to leave comments or ask questions in the chat during the event, and we will make sure to raise these to our panelists during the question and answer session at the end. But before we begin, I would like to introduce today's topic. Social inclusion and equal opportunities for all are core values of the EU and the European way of life, as highlighted by the European Social Pillar of Rights. The pillar also stresses that everyone has the right to quality and inclusive education, training and lifelong learning in order to fully participate in society and manage successfully transitions into the labor market. In parallel to the pillar, another EU flagship initiative is the European Skills Agenda, which aims to prepare the workforce of tomorrow with lifelong transferable skills and at the same time leave no place or no person behind. Action is needed. While the European Union has one of the broadest and most effective social policies against discrimination in the workplace, against structural inequalities and discrimination on the basis of race, of ethnicity, of religion, disability, and gender, they still exist. Before the pandemic, Europe had 90 million people at risk of poverty or social exclusion, and social conditions have in many places deteriorated since then. In this context, apprenticeships and VET are key as they can contribute to a more fair and more socially inclusive Europe while breaking these stereotypes. In particular, good quality apprenticeships can be a powerful and reliable pathway for people of different backgrounds into education, working life, and society. Apprenticeships allow individuals to obtain competences required to access decent jobs and pursue rewarding careers. For companies, inclusive apprenticeships provide access to a wider pool of talent and create a positive image of the enterprise. Today, we will hear more about what social inclusion in apprenticeships looks like. We have the privilege of having with us 4 distinguished speakers, each one of them involved in inspiring projects. And today we share and also learn from their great work and experience. I have the honor to welcome our eminent panelists. I will start with Ms. Therese Fitzgerald from the Technological University Dublin in Ireland. Therese is Programme Officer at the TU Dublin Access to Apprenticeship Programme, which is an innovative program supporting the transition of young men and women between 16 and 24 years old from socio-economically disadvantaged backgrounds into craft apprenticeships. Our second panelist comes from the Czech Republic, Ms. Pavla Kavulokova from Škoda Auto. She's coordinator of professional education and international projects in Czechia. And in her role, Pavla is involved in exchange programs, including Erasmus Plus for disabled apprentices and the organization of the annual Girls' Days hosted by Škoda Vocational Education and Training Academy. Welcome, Pavla. The next person I want to introduce is Mr. Sergi Alegro Calero. He's head of European projects at the Fundació Catalana de l'Esplai, Catalonia in Spain, which is an NGO and also an EAfA member, created in 1984 to promote social inclusion, offering training tools and services to educators and teachers, association representatives, environmental trainers, and also to parents as well as young people. Welcome, Sergi. We have one more guest with us, and he's coming from Germany, Mr. Andrei Grabinski. He is a research associate at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Germany, the BIBB, in the division Vocational Orientation and Educational Change. The overall aim of this program is to place every young person interested in training into a vocational education and training program. To begin, we have gathered to discuss about how apprenticeships can be a tool for social inclusion. We will touch on many issues in our discussion, and our principal aim will be to shed light on how we can make apprenticeships work for everyone in our society. To this end, I would like to turn to the speakers and kick off this discussion by learning more about their work on promoting social inclusion in apprenticeships and what they are trying to achieve. So, Therese, would you like to tell us a few words about your work at the Access to Apprenticeships program?
Yeah, thanks, Anne, and thanks for inviting me here today. I'd be delighted to tell you more about the Access to Apprenticeship program, and I suppose more specifically our work in promoting social inclusion in apprenticeships. So as Anne said, the Access to Apprenticeship program is an innovative educational program that supports the transition of young men and women between the ages of 16 to 24 from socioeconomic disadvantaged backgrounds into craft apprenticeships. The aim of the program is to provide a stepping stone for young people who may come up against social and economic barriers to work and study. We would have young people on the program who might be early school leavers or have been in care of the state or have experienced homelessness, migrants, amongst others. The program itself is run by TU Dublin, so that's the Technological University of Dublin. It delivers the Access to Apprenticeship program with support from JP Morgan, the Higher Education Authority, the ESB, which is the Electricity Supply Board, and Rethink Ireland. The program itself is a 12-week course that runs 3 times a year. So we run a course in September, we run another one in January, and another one in April. I suppose the program gives young people an opportunity to sample a range of different trades. So the idea is that they get to come in and maybe try out up to about 14 different craft apprenticeships across the construction, engineering, electrical, and aviation industries. So they might come in, they'll sample electrical, plumbing, carpentry, so they can get a feel for what's involved in that apprenticeship, get an idea of what skills they need, how they would go about applying for that apprenticeship, and I suppose be able to make an informed decision about which trade would best suit them. We also do work with students around their personal and professional development. So they get to do things like prepare their CVs, practice their interview skills, how to apply for a job, all those really practical skills that you need in order to get into an apprenticeship. And every week we do what we call employer engagement events. So every week the students get an opportunity to meet an apprentice employer. So that might be that we'll go out and visit a company and we might do a live interactive workshop, or we'll get to meet some of their apprentices and find out what it would be like to do an apprenticeship with that particular company. And we try and do an employer engagement event every week. the other kind of things that we run are employer speed dating. So we might invite up to 10 employers to come in, and then each student gets 5 minutes with the employer, and that builds their skills around like their personal and professional development, so their interview skills. But it also exposes them to different companies and helps them create networks, all geared towards helping them to make that transition at the end of the program into an apprenticeship. And then in the last 2 weeks of the program, each student gets support to get a work placement. So we organise a 2-week work placement, depending on what trade the young person preference is. So they're getting to sample all the different trades throughout the 10 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks, we'll organise a placement, and we'll do it based on what trade they feel is best suited to them. And we try to place students with apprentice employers that are actively recruiting, so that they're in the best position to put their best foot forward, and hopefully get considered for an apprenticeship. We also do health and safety training on the program, so all students will get their Safe Pass, which is a requirement, and their manual handling training. So since 2018, 70% of students who've completed the program have progressed into an apprenticeship, of which more than 80% are still in their apprenticeship a year out. So we did an audit there during the summer. Female participation on the program has grown from 4% in 2018 to 29% in 2021, which took a lot of work and targeted initiatives to make that happen. Of those that have progressed into an apprenticeship, 60% secured an apprenticeship through their work placement from the program. 25% secure an apprenticeship with an alternative company that is in our employer network. So that would be part of the network that we're working with throughout the program that support us with placements. So I suppose just to say, the program runs for 12 weeks, but we don't necessarily say like goodbye forever at the 12 weeks. At the end of the 12 weeks to our students, we offer a post-placement support. So, we'll check in with everyone after they've done their work placement. Maybe they haven't transitioned into an apprenticeship straight away. So we'll continue to try and support them and link them in with employers, or even link them into further education and training. And that's how 25% of our students secured placement. It was through that post-program pathway planning. And actually 15% of students attained an apprenticeship off their own bat on foot of completing the program. So we're really pleased when that happens as well. So that's kind of the Access to Apprenticeship program in a really quick nutshell. There might be more questions later, so I'm happy to answer them then.
Thanks, Teresa. That was a lot of information for the start. I would say these figures are amazing, and I would like to stress the increase of female participation in the program from 4% to 29% in only 3 years. So congratulations, I would say.
Thank you.
Let us listen to Pavla now.
Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, thank you very much for invitation. And back to your questions later in, I would like to shortly introduce, as from the helicopter view, what is Škoda Auto about, its corporate social responsibilities activities, and what is its vocational academy and Škoda Academy responsible for, and what is my role related to apprenticeship. So Škoda Auto in CSR strategies lies on regions, road safety, technical education, and also help to disadvantaged children. Helping disadvantaged children is one of the main priorities of Škoda Auto, and our goal is enable to children to start their personal development and to have greater opportunities for future employment. Now back to your questions relating activities to apprenticeships and how Škoda Auto Vocational School support. Škoda Vocational School has around 930 apprentices with around 15 fields of studies. And what is interesting is that one of them is called automotive work. This branch supports apprentices with mild mental disabilities. Every year we recruit around one classroom. It means around 30 pupils, men and women from the year 14 to 18 years old. We involve apprentices in equal conditions to the branches, and they have apprenticeships in the beginning years. They have 50 to 50. It means they have theory and praxis starting praxis at the workplaces and later in production of Skoda Auto. What is interesting that later in third years of their final studies, they have even 80% of apprenticeships by the assembly lines, and not only at different workplaces, they make the rotation and they have really great chance to recognize, to get know the different surrounding of Skoda Auto, and they are better prepared for future. The positive effect of this social inclusion of this field of study for Skoda Auto is that the apprentices, males and females, are given particular support in finding their way into their careers. These students, these apprentices have a lot of activities. They are involved in many projects, and I would like to highlight three main projects which could be interesting from the point that there is kind of diversity of the age from the apprentices. There are the mixture of generations. There are mixtures of teams from Skoda Auto. First of all, it's the, as you mentioned, it's Erasmus Plus exchange program. We do for all the field of studies, but for these disabled children, we have partnerships with Slovakia partners. And what is advantage for the apprentices is that Slovak language is similar to Czech one, so the children understand each other better and they feel really comfortably in the surroundings and in the production as such. They get the experience, their deeper their knowledge and competencies, and they are better prepared for their future life at Skoda Auto and in automotive in general. Second project, which is very interesting and what we support and we engage apprentices with mild disabilities. It's called Atsubi Car project, in English Apprentice Car, which is an exceptional project of whole Volkswagen and worldwide, where Skoda Auto and the students present from the beginning their work and their involvement and engagement there. For example, they're starting from the designing car, they're building their cars according to their dreams. They go through the important comparison of components and the final modification of the car. The children in general and the young people learns to present and communicate to public, communicate in front of the board of members, for example. They are again better prepared in soft skills area for future. The positive effect and feedbacks from students is very positive, great. As I said, they are involved in all the activities, in equal opportunities. They're meet in different teams. They communicate each other, and together as a common work, they're prepared for their future professions. Third interesting project is called Girls' Day. What is about one of main pillar of education of Skoda Auto is supporting technical education for boys and girls with recruitment in the age of 14 years, when the children comes from the primary school to secondary school to the second level. Um, According to benchmarks, according to studies, according to our experience, unfortunately, still not so many girls, women are interested in technical education. They are not still so much motivating in technical education in Czech Republic. Our results are only that we have around 14% of girls at vocational school. Every year we are challenging to have higher numbers. Our goal is we want allow girls obtain competencies required to job and encourage them to studies and involve them naturally to process and automotive. Our goal is to really understand their role, that it's not necessary they can't afraid of the technology and a technical field of studies. How we do the program is 1 day. It has several blocks. The program is focused on several topics. The girls invited with their teachers to vocational school and to Škoda Academy can practically try the examples of the technical studies. For example, they can try virtual painting. They can recognize that it's not just about the manual works, but it can be really about the interesting works in virtual worlds as such. They are meeting with the women from the boards of members, from the managers roles. They can discuss with the girls from current field of studies their possibilities for future. And after that, we have the feedbacks that the girls are much more motivated, and they say to us, wow, now I can recruit by you because I feel I receive the feedbacks that, and I see really objectively that it's really not necessary to afraid of the techniques as such. So we have very good experience, and we perceive that this kind of activities and much more we do really supports, promotes diversity, gender issues, and giving equal opportunities for boys and girls by Škoda Auto. So that's all for this part, and looking forward for another question if you have.
Thanks a lot, Pavla. Also here we see efforts on gender issues related to apprenticeships. And if I understood well, you use the Erasmus Plus program for activities addressing disabled students. So very interesting. Thanks for sharing this, and we go back to you. Now let's turn to Sergi. We would like to find out a bit more about your interesting work at the Fundació Catalana de l'Esplai. Can you tell us about the practices that you work on related to social inclusion, please?
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, to organize this event and to ask me to participate. It's an honor and a pleasure. And thank you for all the people who are spending their time hearing our comments. As you mentioned at the beginning, I represent the Fundació Catalana de l'Esplai. We are in Spain, in Catalonia. Here you have in my back the map of Catalonia, and exactly we are in El Prat de Llobregat. This is the metropolitan area of Barcelona. In fact, vast majority of you don't know this city, but you have been in this city, because it's the city where the airport of Barcelona is placed. So every time you have come to Barcelona by plane, vast majority of you probably you have been in El Prat. In fact, our headquarters, this is where I am now. It's only 500 meters from the Terminal 2, so really, really near to the airport. Sorry. As you mentioned, our organization Fundesplai is focused in youth, only in youth. It's the only target group of age that we work, especially in social inclusion, and especially in risk areas of different cities in Catalonia. We were born 20 years ago as an organization, as a foundation, but our roots are probably nearby 50 years. In all the works we develop, all the programs and all the projects, formation is important, because we believe formation is a key issue for the social inclusion in our societies. And we too are members of the Liga Iberoamericana, the Ibero-American Network for Young People, and they are one of our main members is Fundación Renapse from Brazil, and from them we learned and we imported a project. They have been developing there in Brazil for the last 20 years with more than 60,000 young people involved in this project. The project is called, as you have mentioned, Youth with Value. The title is not innocent. No title is in principle innocent ever, usually. And there is that all young people, whatever the race, whatever the social situation, whatever their skills, have a value. And not only have a value about themselves, what they do, it's a value for our society because they are the future, all of them. So our target in this project is young people from 18 till 24 that they don't study and they don't work and they have never done it before to work, and that they are in social exclusion risk or already in social exclusion. What we do is to contact with the social service of the quarters. We have developed this program for 6 editions already, so 6 years. Every year we reach 60 young people. And sorry, I go back. We contact the social service of the quarter or the area, and then we ask them to provide young people with these characteristics. To them, what we, after a deep selection process, especially to know what they want, what they need, what they should be, they are thinking, what is the social situation, the family situation, as you know, it's key in these cases. What we offer them, and this is the key of this project and the success, if I may say, we offer them a 1-year contract, a working contract with Fundación, Fundesplai, paid from the first day. We pay them 800 euros a month. And this contract has 2 parts. One part is to get to study, to get general knowledge, social knowledge, human knowledge, and some of administration knowledge, to work in an archive, to work in a call center, these kind of jobs, and to work 4 hours daily in a company. So they are not making an apprenticeship, they are not making a proof, they are really working. They are really working because we want them to know what it means to work, and they are really desiring to work, to feel that they can work, to feel that they can do it. And for sure, 10 hours a week, and this is the other key point of success of this project, in our opinion. We have, not only our opinion, we have been evaluated every year by the University of Barcelona, one of the departments, of course, is to go with them, to stay with them. 10 hours a week, we are with them about what they feel, how nervous they are the first day to go there, if they have any doubt, if they have any whatever, and this is one of the key. What are the results of, the main results of the project? Later on I will tell you the difficulties, that there are difficulties as well, of course, like in a proper project or a normal project. They realize they can. A lot of them, they think, no more, I am out, and I will keep all my life out of the system, let's call it like that. They realize, a lot of them, that they should try to get the title. A lot of them, some of them, they have not a title because a basic title, and a basic education title, because they dropped out of the school before the ending of the normal term, or they didn't finish, and then afterwards they did not follow. That a lot of them, they realize, oh, if I have not a title, this is only the type of job I will have. And now I see that I don't want to work like that always, and I could go back and to get the title, and I would get a better job and a better salary, of course. They realize what it means to work, really work, not just to make some practices or to go from there and then, and so it's really to work, to be every day. I mean, you know what it means to work, because all of us, I think we know that. They get at the end of the 1 year contract, they get a document from the supply and the company they have been working for 1 year, that they are good workers. And this is key because, especially in Spain, with nearby, unfortunately, 35% of unemployment rate for young people. If you go to any job, what do you have? No title. What do you have? Experience? No experience. So go out directly from this room for the employer. And very important, to realize what it means to get every month 800 euros. For a lot of them, for 1 year or half of the year or 3 quarters, they are the basic income and the most important income of their family. other that maybe the family is not in such a bad economic conditions, they realize that, okay, I get 10 euros every week and I nearby the civic center or the cultural center, I get Wi-Fi for free, so my life is fine. It's okay. But when they realize what it means to get 800 euros, what they can do, how much they can support their families, how much they can get from that money, the idea of, okay, I want to really to be active, to try to find a job. In general, the results we have got till today is that 60% they keep their job and the companies that we have found, and we have an agreement with them because they are really committed, and it's the first time they work, and for the vast majority, if not for all, and they get the culture of the company, and they are really thankful to the company to give this opportunity to work. 30% they go back to study, what is the other very good results we are looking for, and there is 10% around that they don't go back, or they don't keep working, or they don't go back, unfortunately, to study. This is connected with sometimes, or a lot of times, with not the young people, if not other circumstances, especially of the family around them where they live. Talking about the cost of the program, the 800 euros is paid by the companies. The money, the salary that young people get, the training and all the work behind is paid by the regional government of Catalonia, Generalitat of Catalonia. Okay, for the moment, in our wish, and I will now finish with this. Our wish will be that, like in Brazil, the companies pay everything. The companies pay everything. In fact, our colleagues, friends of Brazil, they got 10 years ago a change. They were success to lobby to the politicians, the policymakers, to change the law. And now in Brazil, every company with more than 100 workers have to contract at least the equivalent of 5% of the workers in this program. So for young people in social exclusion through this methodology, because it's not only our colleagues from the Fundación in Brazil, if not all the foundations that they provide with different methodologies, different skills, this type of project. To end, we were successful to convince the European Commission, and we got an Erasmus Plus project. And now we are 6 organizations from 6 countries that we are trying to scale up this young with value to try to find a European model that it can be extended in all countries of a European Commission and outside for sure, with 5 national implementation plans. And we will have our final event, and for sure you are most welcome in the next, hopefully, November 2022 in Brussels, and there we will show all the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergi. Another highly interesting example. I retain training and experience addressing children and young people who think I'm out of the system. They feel that they can work. They realize what it means to work. I think this is really fantastic. Finally, to conclude the round, I would like to turn to André to tell us more about the work of the German Ministry for Education and Research in promoting social inclusion and about the project Causa. The floor is yours, André.
Yes, thanks for inviting me to this panel discussion and for giving me the possibility to present the Causa program. The Causa program works on a kind of different level than the other project because it's a statewide program with small projects. We at the moment have 20 projects all over Germany, and it's already in existence for more than 20 years. The first and foremost aim of Causa was to include migrant-owned enterprises in the German VET system. And the idea behind this was at first to improve simply the number of apprenticeship positions available, because at the time of the founding of the program, there were not enough positions for everybody. So, and migrant-owned companies didn't participate in the same amount as German-owned companies, so this program was started for them. But in general, the aim is also to include these companies in the VAT system in general. But Causa not only focuses on migrant-owned enterprises, but also on migrant youth. Therefore, you could say that Causa is taking social inclusion from both sides. So you can support the youth, but you need the enterprises, companies to offer placements as well. So what are the target groups for Causa at the moment, and what is Causa offering them? First, there are young migrants and refugees at the beginning of an apprenticeship. And in the different projects, first aim is to offer information on the German VAT system in general. How is it made? What's necessary to start an apprenticeship? And so on, because there's quite a lot of lack about the necessary information on the side of possible trainees. This is often done in close cooperation with schools or language schools or other partners, so that during the first contact with the German system in general, educational system in general, young people also get an impression of what's the vocational education and training system in Germany. Then there's the individual counseling of young people. It's like Teresa already mentioned, the projects offer different ways. For example, we have such speed dating events as well that took place during the pandemic, more and more online. And that was a quite successful experience because companies are more willing to join these events in an online version than in a real life. It's simply much more easy to participate, and it's not necessary to travel, and you can even meet more young people. Then another important target groups are parents of the young possible trainees, because there's also lack of information on the German VAT system there. And one successful example is a training course for parents about vocational education and training. It's about 3 months during evening classes where they get to know the system better, and the aim is to educate ambassadors for each community so they can represent the German system in their own communities and answer questions, what's it all about and how it's working. And of course, there are the migrant companies which Causa aims at, and that's the process really from supporting them in the preparation of becoming a company that's offering training placements. So you have to register your company, you have to be able, you need a special qualification for that, and Causa projects help with all the formal requirements. And second target group in companies are companies without migrant backgrounds. And the aim there is to enable them to offer apprenticeship for migrants and refugees. So there are seminars on diversity, for example, or contact events between the target groups of the young migrants and the companies. And last but not least, Causa is also a network in Germany to promote apprenticeships for migrant and refugees in general. And that works on an area of political decision makers. If there are new programs for this target group of young people, they should take into account special needs of migrants, for example, and to influence the general atmosphere in concern with this target group. So that was a short introduction on Causa. If there are questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks a lot, Andre. Here again, a great example with the focus this time on migrants and refugees. I retain the important issue of languages, also the involvement of not only youngsters, but of the parents as well, migrant companies, seminars on diversity, really another great example. Now, while there seems to be a broad agreement on the importance of apprenticeships for social inclusion, there seem to be barriers found both in training and also at the workplaces. These barriers may be discrimination in recruitment, insufficient opportunities of certain groups, low quality provision that exclude some learners. My question is, from your view, what are the challenges towards achieving more inclusive apprenticeships? Would you like to begin again, Therese?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. I suppose I'm going to talk from my perspective and working on the Access to Apprenticeship program. We work with a network of employers that are very supportive of the program. So they're very, very open to giving our students opportunities, and they're looking to have a diverse workforce. So in that sense, we're very lucky. But I can speak to the challenges that our students might come with. So we do have particular criteria to be eligible for the program. So there are things like income verification, if you come from an area of disadvantage, if you're in receipt of social welfare, if you attended a DESH school. So DESH schools in Ireland are schools that are in designated disadvantaged areas. And then if you've been in care of the state, if you are or have been in care of the state, it kind of gives you automatic automatic eligibility for the program. So we would have a lot of young people come to the program who can be fairly distanced from the labour market. So they would lack knowledge around, how does the apprenticeship system work? How do you apply for an apprenticeship? I'd have a lot of parents who are really struggling to navigate the whole apprenticeship system as well. So they lack knowledge around it, and I suppose find it very difficult to find information around it. We'd have very few of our students would come with experience, or they wouldn't have CVs. A lot of our students wouldn't have computers or access to good Wi-Fi, which was particularly problematic during the pandemic and when everybody was trying to study from home. And even on that, like, one of the challenges was even to have a space where they were living that was suitable to study from home. And we'd have students we would have had students that would have come as unaccompanied minors, so English wouldn't be their first language, so that can be another barrier for them as well. We have a lot of students who experience homelessness, so they could be in unstable living arrangements, or it happens during the period of the program that they end up in an unstable living arrangement. And of course, this can have a huge impact in terms of students being able to successfully complete the program and successfully transition. If you don't have a stable place to live, it's very hard to get to stay at school and to organize everything else. Not having a license, a driver's license, has been a barrier for students, but not only that, like not having the finances to organize to get a driver's license. So and we would have students who come to the program who have had learning difficulties, so they might need additional support on the program. And of course, we'd be emphasizing for them as well when they transition into an apprenticeship, to make sure when they're going to different vocational education and training settings that they access additional supports as well, to ensure that they can get as much support as they need to get through their apprenticeship. In terms of females, a lot of my experience has been that females haven't even, I suppose, considered apprenticeship as an option, or haven't known that it's an option for them. It wasn't necessarily told to them at school that they could be a plumber or a carpenter, and often they're older when they make that decision, and they would have a real lack of awareness about the apprenticeship system and how to navigate it. And of course, they maybe wouldn't have seen any role models in terms of seeing women in those industries before. And in general, like, we could have students who have fewer role models in their life, fewer people, I suppose, a less supportive social network. They can lack social capital and lack resources, like I said, like having their CV and things like that ready to go. those will be some of the challenges that our students have experienced. I suppose in terms of us trying to navigate them, we try to reduce as many barriers as possible when they're on the program. So, there's obviously no fees for the program. We try to provide all the gear that they would need. In fact, we provide, they can get their breakfast and lunch when they're on the program. So just trying to reduce as many barriers as possible so students can be successful. And we try to, have a program that's flexible and holistic and has like good student support strategies. So as if there is challenges or things that arise, we try and address them so that we can ensure that the students can get the most out of their program and successfully complete. So that's kind of it. There might be more questions.
Okay, thank you. There is. Yes, there is really a lot of barriers. I, in particular, kept in mind the typical female barriers, that they even are not aware that they can do an apprenticeship, that it is also for them. So there we get back to the gender issues. Thanks a lot. Pavla, can you tell us about your own view on this issue?
Okay, so first of all, what I would like to say that my point of view is that as everybody is not only at Skoda Auto but worldwide should respect the others, and the strategies of Skoda Auto is based on dimension as gender balance, generations, cooperation, and so on. It's really important that the students and the apprentices understand their role, the rules from the beginning. They are recruited to the end of their studies, and further with follow-ups in the places where they work. So we have a lot of strategies. We have a lot of strict rules, how to respect, for example, code of conduct. We work with the bias and prejudices. We have a lot of training programs where the apprentices and all the employees of Skoda how to have chance to discuss what does it mean in practice, and we discuss if they find sometimes in life it kind of discrimination, how to work with, where they can ask for if something not in the good conditions. So we work a lot on these topics. What I would like to say is that but maybe a little different point of view, but we are challenging last years with, I call it kind of social bubble due to the COVID pandemic situation, when apprentices had to stay home for a long time. Unfortunately, Czech Republic was the country where the children and students stayed at home for the longest time. And you can imagine maybe what it could influence and affect it in a way of psychological. So, for example, there were the big gaps, missed hours of the practical trainings at schools. Of course, you can substitute, you can replace theory, but never practical apprenticeships at the workplace and in the production. The effect was that from social and psychological point of view, we perceived a change of behavior of students, and it was the big challenge for us, for teachers, for the schools, and for Skoda Academy to start supporting more and more to solve really against the social interactions to the workplace and back to school and back to the normal life. How we do, we try to more and more work as a counseling center, educational counselors who lead the prevention topics to fight with the current and undesirable phenomena. They work with the topics as mental health, work-life balance. They work with the students how to manage mental problems and to support them better to be adaptive and to be at workplace again. So that was the examples we are challenging currently, and hope that the situation will be better and better, and the apprentices would have again the chance to be not only on online trainings, which brought of course also the positives things, but on the other side, apprenticeships, especially in technical education, really needs the practice apprenticeships at workplace.
Okay, thanks a lot, Pavla. Yes, I think apprenticeships, there was an extra difficulty because of COVID. Practical lessons are very important. And then you mentioned mental health and socializing. I think we can all agree with that. Let's go to Sergi. Do you have any thoughts on the issue?
Oh, yes, thank you. And I think for sure, first, we are handling or tackling with a very complicated issue. This is the first point. Second, maybe because I have been a politician for a lot of years, maybe I go out a little bit of the theme, or I put the thumb a little bit up, but no one is perfect. So I think I will start with one thing. As you know, social exclusion is not only about the skills. So put it away, or like a photo, the black side. Social inclusion is not only about the skills. So I think why I say that, I think for me, for us, the most important is really to be with them, to accompany them. Sometimes we have the feeling as a Fundación, and me myself, is that a lot of these young people they're like, someone who has failed from a boat in the middle of the ocean or the sea, and you tell them, well, but there's plenty of water around you. You will survive. Yeah, but it's salty. I cannot drink it. So there is a lot of products, a lot of services, a lot of programs, and a lot, but we don't reach them, or it's very difficult to reach them. Being the immigrants, like the case André has explained, or Romans, we have Romans here, or other people, just other young people. So for us, the most important is really to be with them, because officials and policymakers, I think we forget that this role, in the vast majority of our cases, it was done by our families. But exclusion a lot of time is connected with no family, or family completely structure. So this role has to be played by society. It's complicated, but which in our opinion we have to try to do it. And this has to be started in the prevention, mainly in the schools. We have to realize that there are blocks, like the department of, the school, the high school, blah, blah, blah. But these young people, they fell in the gaps. They fill in the gaps. So it's really, I was a professor for a long time ago, and I can tell you, any professor in high school, in secondary school, in March, you may make a mistake of 2. You know who is going to fail or not. Then should be the prevention, not to wait that, okay, now. And then we will let them to go, if they go, to the new services, if there are new services or new programs to provide them. I think this is key. The other key issue is that we have to understand how they communicate, how they get how they live. And this is, we like it or not, digital. And I think we have to develop the skills to really get to them in the way they are now. It's digital. And if everything is not digital, will be very difficult to reach. But it doesn't mean to combine them from outside someone in 100,000 kilometers far. But, this is fine. And finally, I think all the organizations, all the people, and we are a lot working in this field, we should lobby, we should push our politicians to really push European Union, the Commission and the Parliament and our states, because now there is a window of opportunity. Never before pandemic is going to be so much money to recover the economy. It's going to be millions, thousands of millions of euros, as you know, to the companies. So I think we have, I would say, even the duty to ask them to fulfill their social responsibility. Because if you get public money, you have a public obligation. If it's your own business, your own money, okay, I can ask you to provide, I can beg you to collaborate with society. But if you get public money, I think you have a public responsibility. And I think now, I have not seen in any paper, any policy maker, and any regulation of these thousands of millions of euros that are coming from Brussels to the states to recover the companies, this social obligation for all these people that, if not, will be even more behind than before, as you mentioned. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sergi. Yes, I think we all agree. We have a social responsibility and we should not forget that. And then our last panelist on this issue, Andre, what are the challenges you're facing related to inclusiveness and apprenticeships in your country or in your work?
Teresa almost mentioned all of them because we have some similar target groups, I think. So the problems there are really the same here in Germany as there in Ireland. But let me mention some additional effects. As Causa works with companies a lot, we still have the impression that there are still existing prejudice and even discrimination on the kind of employers to offer traineeships to migrants and refugees. So there are stereotypes and we have to fight against this discrimination. For example, in Germany, if you want to get a job interview and have a Turkish surname, it's much harder to be invited to a job interview than with a Germany-sounding name, and that's a big issue we should address. Then in Germany, it's also a question of the legal status. It's not guaranteed that you can start in a vocational education and training with every legal status you have, and it's not even sure if you finish your application, your apprenticeship successfully. It's not guaranteed that you can stay. So we have a trained young person who is valuable for our economy, but it's not guaranteed that he can stay. So that's a big issue on my account. Then there's also the question of finance during apprenticeship. If you have the choice to start an apprenticeship or start working, it's working you earn more money. So why should you do an apprenticeship for 3.5 years or maybe 4 years even and earn less money than when you start working immediately and can earn much more? So you have to convince the young people that of the value of an apprenticeship in this position and of the future outcomes. And let me mention one thing that we had in concern with the refugees. There was even the question of oversupport. Some refugees had so many different opportunities and actors supporting them that there was a kind of challenge between each actor offering support and not much coordination. So in this situation, you come to another question of coordination and the structures. So, for example, some Causa project told me that they had a chance for a young refugee to start an apprenticeship, but then the job agency said no, he can also start working. So the job agency pushed him to work instead of promoting an apprenticeship. So there has to be done something about thinking in the structures that an apprenticeship should always come first and not the job.
Oh, thanks a lot. I think this is a very nice last challenge. You said that apprenticeships should come first and then offering a job. I think this is a nice sentence to close this part of the live discussion. Now let's turn to the next question and discuss the lessons learned. My question is, how can we increase the participation of disadvantaged groups in apprenticeships? Do you have any insights or practical knowledge that you would like to share? Maybe Sergi.
Okay. From our opinion is first, it's not easy. I mean, Clyde, the vast majority of the time you are telling young people that they went out, dropped out, or they didn't finish with the title that, hi, I offer you to come back to study. This is exactly what they hate, or they hated when they went out. So this is not really easy. a lot of times, as I mentioned, the social family ecosystem is even telling them, no, don't do it. It makes no sense. You are not able. You will get nothing. They are just playing with you somehow. So sorry for the insistence. It's really to try to convince them, and for that you have to be very near to them. You have to speak their language, and you have to offer them. That's why we are very happy with this program, and we would like to extend it. You have to show them, not maybe if you train, if you get this title, then maybe you will get, because as Andre mentioned, the families and they self, of course, they are not stupid. And if you are Roman, for example, you know it's going to be very difficult to find a job. And you know that. And you a lot of things think, oh, you're an immigrant. Why I'm going to if I'm not going to get nothing? Because there is other circumstances that fix the possibility, they shape the possibility of my contract. So for our experiences, this program to really to offer them, no, not in the future, not if it is now, and especially with young people that, well, always, usually when you are young, you want the things now, even if you don't know yet that it's possible that things are so quick. So to offer them something concrete, something that they can understand and they can touch really quick. It's we think, and that's why we are very happy with this program, is to get out of there. The other issue, and I guess all of you have proved that, is to bring to connect with people with them, mainly their own religion, their own quarter, their own race, their own minority, whatever, that they have been success. They try, these words of these people are more worthy than 100 teachers or professors or people from telling you, oh, you have to do that. They are the ones who can really make the change. The other issue is that, again, and with disabilities, you have to work with the family as much as possible in order to, if not, I mean, the value of the word of any monitor, any professor, any whoever in front of your father or your mother, it's nothing. And we have to accept that. So it's really to try to get them into, not only to try to focus in the young, because this is very, very difficult. Sorry, I cannot be more optimistic on that.
Thanks a lot, Sergi. And I must say the title of the project is very attractive, Youth with Value. Maybe we could use it somewhere as well in a slogan. I turn to Andre from a policymaker's point of view. What conclusions can you draw from your work?
Well, as I mentioned before, I'm also looking at the structural level there, and there I have to mention the federal, the educational change initiative. That's an initiative that's coordinating the federal level and the state level to organize like a chain from school to apprenticeship or to university. And there, these partners are working together to coordinate the different measures that really everybody, after finishing school, gets at least an offer for either vocational orientation, further vocational training, and so on. And we are working there on a really structured system. So in Germany, it's at the moment quite popular. Youth job agencies are there are about 300 to 400 already all over Germany, which focus on the transition from school to work or university. And they are open for every young person looking for support. And it's also a very closed system where they follow young people. So it's guaranteed even that young people who drop out and don't have an apprenticeship or further training and so on are contacted by this youth job agency personally and ask if what they are doing now, if they have any questions, if they need support. And that is a quite a successful way to reach young persons who haven't been in contact with work, with school, with agencies for a long time. They're even thankful that somebody is actually calling them, contacting them in person, and they feel recognized, and they feel that there's somebody looking after their needs. So that's a way of reaching everybody. And on the other hand, I think we have to also look at the employers and offer support for them if they take young persons from a disadvantaged group on an apprenticeship, that they can get additional support, for example, through further language training, social support during the apprenticeship, and that's possible through the, in Germany, called Ausbildungsbegleitende Hilfen. It's additional support during apprenticeship, and every apprentice can get this support during his training. And there are also voluntary programs that support young persons during training. So I think we don't have to forget the aspect of support during the training.
Okay, thanks a lot. I think we can all agree that apprenticeships need to be structured into the educational system. And I think this is great to see that there is an educational change initiative in Germany. Let's go back to Teresa. What conclusions can you draw from your work?
Yeah, so I suppose, I agree with Sergi. There are lots of challenges, and particularly the young people we face lots of challenges, but we have seen success in our program, which is so nice to see. And I think in terms of what Andre said as well, like that chain is very important from leaving school to getting into an apprenticeship. So things that we've done, which have been successful, is to build that bridge with community and industry. So we collaborate when we work together with community and industry partners. I suppose really practical things that have been good, like we have a really active outreach and recruitment program. So we try to get out to schools to talk about the program, and particularly schools, like I mentioned earlier, deaf schools that are in areas of disadvantage. We try to get out to community organizations. We connect with youth groups. We connect with aftercare workers, and local employment services, social welfare, and we're doing that to actively recruit for our program. So we're literally going out there to find the people. We don't just sit back. That doesn't necessarily work. And in terms of females, I suppose on the very first program that I worked on, we had no female participants. So we were like, we'll definitely have to do something to change this. So we started running really targeted recruitment initiatives to try and get more girls on the program. So I specifically would go out to talk to all girls schools, and I'd bring maybe a qualified one of the lecturers would have come with me, and she's a qualified cabinet maker, to talk about her experience so they can have a role model. We would have run specific open days for young women. I think we had 145 young women to come to an open day, and that would have had up to 12 employers would have been there talking about their apprenticeship programs as well. And we run try a trade days, so they have been very successful. So try a trade days for girls, so that's like a one-off event where girls who might have an interest in doing an apprenticeship or they like working with their hands can come in and try out plumbing and try out carpentry and get a feel for it and get a better understanding of what is involved in an apprenticeship. And from that, we managed to attract a lot more females onto our program. We would have, in terms of digital work, we would have run webinars. I did a Women in Apprenticeship webinar to showcase women in those industries and to showcase the really good, viable education option that is there in an apprenticeship. So I find a lot, there could be an encouragement to consider college, but apprenticeships is is just as good. And I mean, a lot of the employers we work with would have started out as apprentices and now they're CEOs and managers and directors. So there's absolutely brilliant career opportunities and career progression opportunities from an apprenticeship. Other things that are, you know, have been really good is, I suppose, or just to say in terms of the community and doing outreach, it's been really important for us to develop those relationships with those stakeholders and build trust. And I think over the years we've managed to do that. And it means that they're more likely to refer young people to our program. They know us, they've dealt with us before, they know how we work. And then the other side of that is working with employers. So we have a network of about 35 employers that are really supportive of the program. They, you know, support us with our employer engagement event, with work placement, and of course with offering our students opportunities, offering them apprenticeships. And again, that was about building relationships with those stakeholders and working with them and building trust and them being in knowing how the program works and what we do and the ethos behind it. And recently we launched Access to Apprenticeship Digital Badge Award. So we gave a digital badge to the employers that have supported the program, just as a recognition for all the work that they've done with us, and that was really positive. I mean, students would have been part of that as well, and it's something they can put on their website and show that they're supporting the Access to Apprenticeship program. The other thing I think that has been good about the program is that the program is short. So it's a short intervention. It's only 12 weeks and it's quite close to the labour market. So I think in terms of the young people working with, it's not a massive commitment. I mean, you know, they come for 12 weeks and then there is a real chance of an opportunity of progressing into an apprenticeship, which of course is a job, and they'll start earning wages. And then in addition to that, another thing I think has been good, this is on a personal level that I notice with the students, is it can be a real boost for our students to come in and be part of the Technological University of Dublin. So maybe some of our students have been out of school for a long time, or they left school early, and it would have seemed like they were really distanced from coming into a big institution like this or being part of the university. And you can see a real boost when they become part of the I suppose, college community or the university community. And then we have an active and supportive advisory board, which is made up of representatives from industry, education, and from the community. And of course, we have an excellent team of staff who are very passionate about what they do. So I think all those things have added to the success of the program, despite the fact that there's still challenges and barriers. So there are some of the practical things that we have done on the program.
Thanks a lot, Therese. I'm not going to sum up everything you mentioned. We heard so much today, but I keep in mind the gender issues, that there is still a lot to be done. And then recognition is very important, and collaboration and networking between education and companies. So thanks a lot. Now I get back to Pavla, our fourth panelist in this part of the discussions. What conclusions can you draw from your work, Pavla?
I would like to mention and maybe follow the last verse of Therese, and what is important, and maybe what wasn't mentioned here. In Czech Republic, we are starting to have features of the dual system of studying, as for example Germany has. We are still pioneers, and I believe the Škoda Auto is really role model in. At Škoda Auto, we have nearly trial system, because we offered to pupils and to primary schools theory, praxis at the workplace, at school, but also praxis in the production of Škoda Auto. And this is the great benefits for the disabled children, and for the girls also. We have everything under one roof for them. It means that the disabled children are easily adapted to the process of productions, they are accompanied by the instructors, by the good lecturers who are every day there for them if there are any troubles. The children are financial motivating. They're starting to have their financial budget. They're starting to be independent, and they're really building strongness in their mental health and be really strong in daily life. We also separate children homes, which is very important that we also integrate children from the socio-economic bad backgrounds, and we give them the chances to study at Škoda vocational schools. This is another good examples. Here I would like to show you kind of good practices for apprenticeships and how the disabled children can be better adapted, be better prepared for future. When we come back maybe to quickly to the topics of gender and how we maybe motivate the girls more and more for technical education and to have more women in automotive in general, we try to do the events. We try to be good role model. We try to discuss all the problems related to the kind of worries for technical education. For example, we offer then to all the children, not only to girls, kind of programs where they can discuss not only diversity topics, but they can be developed for future competencies, for the competencies which are somehow maybe currently not sure what the future brings. I'm talking, for example, about the IT competencies. So thanks to the and upskilling programs, we able to all the employees and also of course to these disabled children the possibility to be developed for future. Some of them can be, for example, team coordinators at assembly lines. Some of them can rotate to another place or to go to another department. So we are giving them also the chance to feel, to experience the diversity of the workplaces and of the conditions from Škoda Auto as such.
Okay. I'm looking at the time. It's 11:47. So this means that maybe we should go to the question and answers. We now turn to this session, and we would like to hear from our audience members. So let's pick up on questions that you have posted in the chat during our discussions. Therese, understanding that the female participation of your program has risen so much from 4 to 29 in only 3 years, what are the drivers behind this development?
Yeah, thanks. And I suppose I would have mentioned some of them that we, you know, did specific targeted recruitment for females to try and get, to attract females to the program. Like those tri-trade days, and I would have done like some social media stuff. So we would have done like live chats on Instagram with female apprentices and some of our past students. And then another thing that has worked well, you know, we found at the beginning we might have one female on the program, and we felt that it was important that they would start having or building a network. So we started to invite all female apprentices that might be in college or in the university, and all and female apprentices from industry. We set up a little network group. It started with lunches, and the group, they just got to, I suppose, get to meet other females that were maybe further on down the line in their apprenticeship, or even in different fields, but in the same sort of industry, and to chat to them about their experiences. And that worked really well. And the group named themselves Women Building the Future, which is good. It was really apt name. And then every time now that we have a new group come in, we run like a lunch, or when we were online, we did a coffee and chats, so that our current students get to meet past students that maybe have progressed into apprenticeships, or other female apprentices that are further on down the line, or women that are qualified. It's kind of like they can mentor each other, they can share advice and guidance. And they've created a little LinkedIn network online as well, so they can communicate with each other when we're not just at the lunches. If they want to put in anything about career advice, someone put in recently, you know, if she wanted to change or go into a different direction, and she put it into the group just to see if anyone had any advice for her. So that has worked really well, I suppose, in terms of making sure that when we do get women or girls on the program, that they stay on the program, or we get to showcase to other females that are further on down the line, and they could see maybe what the future would hold for them. So that's another thing that I had mentioned that worked really well.
Thank you. I see some other questions in the chat. What are the sectors that the youth are most recruited to? How are education providers adapting their training to the changing skills needs of the labor market? I think this is a question to Sergi.
Thank you, Anne. Well, first, the skills we provide them are basic and general, and especially focus that they can develop, the boys and the girls, the young people, administration supportive tasks. So in general, they can work in any company, because in general, all companies have these needs. There is one, let's call it a specialization, that can work too for a lot of companies, especially the middle and big size, is reception in the buildings and the companies, and this connected with hotels, to be receptionist in hotels. As you know, we are a very important touristic country, and this is a sector that we have got a lot of companies, hotel companies, that we have agreement with them. For sure, this meant that it was really heavy the last 2 years with COVID pandemic and the ending so much of tourists, but we more or less handle with that. We are trying to get a balance between public companies or public sector and private sector. For example, in the public, we have the Harbor of Barcelona, the Metropolitan Transport Company, or the water supplier company, and with other private companies. What it's for sure, and I guess we share this situation, is what is it's difficult, and we get a lot of difficulties, is to involve medium small companies. What on the other hand is, we don't like it, but it's really knock day by day to a lot of doors. And yeah, usually it's that's what the point. The only thing in that sometimes we get some good results is that we are the ones who contract the worker, so we had all the papers and all the administration, and let's say all the responsibility about that. Because if not, all the programs, the small companies, and this here in Spain, they say, no, I have a lot of things to do. Don't come with me. Don't come with me now about that. And the other thing, what we do is, especially all the programs for young people that we have training, is skills of digitalization. This will be not only focused, or especially focusing boys and girls that they don't study or they don't work. And there, what we do is to adapt to the needs of the companies. The companies make a framework of what they would like to, the boys and the young people, boys and girls, to be trained, and then we adapt the training for that program need. Thank you.
Thank you. I see another question from the audience, which is addressed to all the speakers. Often companies, they use apprentices as cheap workforce and end up not hiring them permanently. What are some possible ways of solving such negative aspects of apprenticeships? I don't know who wants to answer that question.
I can do it if you want. Oh no, Andre, better.
Okay, maybe I can answer that. Well, in Germany we have a quite strict system of control also. So if an apprentice not really doing what he should do learning some new things, he can always complain. It's with the chambers. Then you have to take into account that if a company really offers bad apprenticeships, that word goes around. So further trainees won't apply there. And there's also in Germany, there's a high need of qualified training and trainees as well. So if a company offers really bad training, they in the long term won't find any new apprentices simply. Yeah, from my point of view.
Thank you.
I suppose just to add to that as well, in Ireland, you know, like similarly, employers have to register to be able to take on apprentices. They have to be registered to say that they're, you know, they have sufficient staff to train up apprentices. So when we have students on our program, we bring in, they're called authorized officers. They'd be the people who would register the apprentices. There's a SOLAS govern the apprenticeship system here. And we try to make our students aware of their rights and to know, like, they can go to their authorized officer if they're having issues in their apprenticeship or they feel like they're not learning what they're supposed to be learning. And they can also find out, you know, before they are hired by a company, they can ring to find out if they're actually registered to take on apprentices or not. But yeah, it can be an issue. But I suppose that it is, like, the system is closely monitored here as well in Ireland. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. I see that there is one more question on how can digital tools be used to promote social inclusion in apprenticeships, for example, in terms of outreach, distance learning, digital learning programs. We mentioned digital already, especially in the current situation with COVID, but I don't know whether there is any comment on that. And this would be our last question.
Maybe I can answer.
Yeah, thank you.
It's super to tell that we are supporting with the lending computers, PCs at home, which is the benefits of Skoda Auto for disabled children and for those who are coming from the bad conditions families. We have also, give, for example, the license 365 Windows, so the children have the apprentices have chance to start quickly with these conditions and with these to improve IT competencies. Then, for example, we back to the questions you posed to colleagues. The children are aware of the conditions from the beginning. They know their benefits, salaries, and so on, and they have the guarantee that they are accepted to the company for future work. And digital learning, as I said before, partly we have really positive effects. That was the quicker adaptation of the getting know the tools and the platforms within the situation it was. On the other side, we still believe and we still really trust of practical trainings, which are really necessary parts of all the apprenticeships.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's time to wrap up. Some conclusions, maybe. Today we have seen inspiring vocational education and training practices from across Europe and even pan-European practices. In Ireland, the access to apprenticeship program supports the transition of young men and women from areas of socio-economic disadvantage into craft apprenticeships. Then in the Czech Republic, we have heard an example of how female and disabled apprentices are given particular support in finding their way throughout their careers. And then in Spain, we heard how La Fundació Catalana de l'Esplai works to promote the so-called third social sector while improving the skills, attitudes, and behavior of young and vulnerable individuals. And then finally in Germany, we learned how the project Causa not only helps young migrants, but also supports them in establishing their own businesses that one day can employ apprentices themselves. What all these outstanding practices have in common is their commitment to make apprenticeships a tool for social inclusion, to make sure no one is left behind at school, on the labor market, and in society as a whole. And before wrapping up, I would like to thank our speakers for the excellent and interesting interventions. It has been truly inspiring to find out how apprenticeship can support vulnerable groups in different ways, and I wish you the best luck for the future. As a last point, I would like to highlight a few ongoing EU initiatives that you should keep an eye out for. There is a study, data collection and analysis of Erasmus Plus projects promoting inclusion in education, which will be finalized in November, so very soon. And the final output should be available online at the beginning of next year at the EU Publications Office website. And the study is an analysis of Erasmus Plus projects promoting inclusion in education, and it will also identify and showcase innovative approaches in the field. The approaches are analyzed in light of the 4 pillars of monitoring, prevention, intervention, and compensation. So this is, finally, I want to thank our eminent speakers again and our dear audience, and also remind you of the upcoming EAfA events on the 10th of November in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. We are going to host our next live discussion on how sectorial and social partners collaborate to promote and develop apprenticeships while focusing on EU sectoral social dialogues. Don't miss it. We are posting a link in the chat, and we are looking forward to welcome you then. And maybe we want to have a group photo, if the speakers agree for a group photo. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Then I thank you very much. It was really great having you. We were very honored to have you as speakers on this highly important topic, in which we are already doing a lot, but for which there is still a lot to be done. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.